Hey there. So it's been a while since I made a video, and in that time, I've been working a little bit with my dot files, and I've made some updates recently to the way that the Claude.MD file works. So what I figured I'd do is I'd just show you a little video here. Hopefully, it won't be quite as long as the previous one that was like an hour long. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the updated version of these files with some agents that I'll discuss to create a new feature to a tool that I'm working on in my spare time. This tool is something that I've not announced to the world yet. It's if things go well, I'm hoping to open source it probably within the next couple of weeks, maybe. And so I'll kind of talk about that a little bit as well. So a little bit to talk about the updates to the Claude.MD file. So you may remember that I had quite a big file originally. It's like quite a really kind of big file that took up a lot of context, and I think that was a little bit of a problem. So I solved that. That was the first significant thing that I did. And the way that kind of works is in here. Let me just find. Oh, sorry, this is the Claude.MD. So in here, what I now do is I have these kind of introductions to the overall principles that are basically unchanged. But instead of having all the content, I now link to using these absolute paths. I link to the actual specific examples and the more kind of detailed content. So you can see here, if I go into this folder and I go into my docs folder and have a look at that testing file, we got all the same content that was there before, but the idea behind this is that Claude can read this information on demand. So by giving it less context, less information to put into its context to begin with, hopefully it kind of helps to make it a little bit more effective, and it can still look up this stuff on demand. The way that it kind of works, these are installed, it links to the absolute path, because it's expected that you'll install these files on your file system. And I also have on here somewhere, let me find it. Where did I put it? Here, I've got some global install instructions now. So you can run this script and it'll just install everything for you. So that's cool. The other thing that I've got is some specific agents, and the agents are really powerful, and that's something that I'll show in this video. The agents, so for people who are not familiar, these are sub-agents in Claude, and the way that this kind of works is that as you're running the Claude Code tool, you can tell it to run specific agents to do specific tasks. And the way that works is each agent gets its own context. They can run in parallel alongside the main thread. You can have multiple agents doing things at once. And you give them a very specific instructions, right? So for example, this refactor one, it has very specific information in here about like what refactoring is, what kind of things to look for, what good looks like for refactoring. And you'll see here, if I get to the very bottom, I've told it your role is to help maintain the balance between clean code and appropriate separation of concerns. I have some instructions here, things like not all code needs refactoring, duplicate code is cheaper than the wrong abstraction. What I found very useful about this specific agent is that it sometimes pushes back. So sometimes it'll say, no, I don't need to do refactoring. Here's the reasons why. But at other times it will do refactorings. And because it's focused specifically on that, and it's got specific rules around what kind of things to look for, the refactorings tend to be more valuable and actually useful and valuable. So that's quite cool. The agents, in theory, Claude is capable of working out when to launch an agent without you even telling it, and it does that based on, see here, if I go back to one of them, let's go to, where are we? So we go to my ADR agent, right? And you have this table here, and you tell it when to use the agent. Now, I found that Claude does do this sometimes, like without you even asking it to, but sometimes it doesn't, and so I, just as a kind of habit now, tend to tell it for this thing, use the TDD agent. For this thing, use the refactor agent. It does sometimes just do it on its own, which is quite cool. I guess a quick scan through some of the agents, maybe. So we've got, what have we got? ADR agent, which is really nice. So ADR's architectural design records. It will basically just scan for when it thinks that there's an ADR that it can extract, it will use that and create an ADR for you. Docs Guardian, this one's really useful. It's for creating documentation in your project. I found that quite useful. TDD Guardian, I tend to use that when I'm doing pretty much anything, and I just tell it, go test first. If you've seen previous videos, you'll know that the reason I do that is because I want it to restrict the scope of what it's doing, and I want to have a way for the tool to automate, for the LLM to know that what it's just done has worked. Learn, that basically adds stuff to your Claude.MD file. Refactor scan, we just touched. TS Enforcer, because I get annoyed with certain things in TypeScript, like any's and things like that. And Work in Progress Guardian, that one, well, I'm going to show you that one anyway in a second. So what I'm going to do today, so I've been working on a tool. This hasn't been announced yet, so I guess I'm kind of announcing the tool here as well. This is the doc site for the tool, which isn't really live yet. But I'm planning to set this live, as I say, probably in the next couple of weeks, depending on where I get to with it. But I'm quite happy with this so far. So what is this tool? So I'm calling it Scenarist. I'm not sure if I like that name or not, but it's a kind of working title. The idea behind this is that, so I've been working in my kind of day job recently on Next.js applications, also some Remix stuff. And while these tools are quite powerful, they quite heavily blur the lines between the front and the back end now. And that causes problems with testing. So for example, with Next.js, it's really difficult to test React server components in any effective way. And even the Next.js docs themselves don't really have a solution for it. I did note in here somewhere, I'd have to hunt through and find it, but yeah, I mean, I've even got it here. The Next.js documentation states, since async components are new, we recommend end-to-end testing, but end-to-end testing doesn't allow you to test every scenario, every state, that kind of thing. So it's a bit of a pain. So I've come up with this tool. It's based on some of the work that I've done in the place where I'm currently working, a place called New Day, where what we did is we created some, outside of production, we created some ephemeral endpoints, right? So this is how this tool works. So the idea is that in a non-production environment, this says only in test. I'll probably update this actually. You can do it however you want really, but probably the doc should show just non-production really, so I'll probably update this. But in a non-production environment, you can set this up in such a way that it will create these kind of endpoints that only exist when this tool is enabled. And the idea is that it sits on the server side, and when you run your tests, you can send a message to the running process and these endpoints. And what it does is, under the hood, it uses mock service worker, and it will capture those. Basically, you send it a set of instructions, basically each one called a scenario, and the scenario is supposed to be a complete set of mocks, if you like. That the special thing is that it doesn't mock out your API, right? So if you've got your front end and you've got your back end, like your Next.js backend code or Remix or whatever, could be Express, could be whatever. You also often will call further external APIs, right? So maybe you're calling, I don't know, you know, you're doing payment stuff with Stripe or Auth0 stuff or whatever it is, or just domain APIs in the environment that you work. And what this tool will do is it will mock out the responses to those APIs. So your API code your server-side code, I should say, runs for real. So I'll just zoom in on this. So essentially, what would happen is, say here that we want to test a payment error. We send a request to our real backend. The external APIs actually get called, but mock service worker intercepts. So in this instance, we'll send a message saying we want a payment fails error. So for that, you might have Stripe has a declined status. You might have auth0 still returns as a user. Then we get a mock response back from those APIs, but crucially, your real code runs at this level. So all your real middleware, all your server-side code, session logic, everything runs for real. But we just mock out these further downstream calls. This turns out to be really powerful. It works really well. And it also means that you've got a way now of testing React server components. You can, and I've got a proof of this, so I should show you actually. Let me just quickly show this. So if I go here, I didn't have this up and running, but I'll just do this quickly. So in the repository that I'm in now, it's a Monorepo. So this is where this library lives. But I also have some example apps. If you see here, let me zoom in on this. So if you see here, I've got an Express example and Next.js examples. I don't know why I only showed one there. That's weird. I've got Next.js and Pages Router example, as you can see. That's a bit odd, but anyway. So if I go to the Next.js, let's say the App Router example, I can run the playwright test. So I'm going to go like this. We have playwright helpers as part of this library. That'll help you do the whole thing. So again, this isn't really a video about this library. I'm just trying to show, I need to give enough context to show you what I'm about to build with this, right? So if I just run these tests now, these are all going to run in parallel. That's another thing. It can handle parallel tests, as you can see here, running 5 at once, and you should see everything was good. And you can see here, this particular test here is testing server components and its specific logic within server components. Now, again, this isn't really a video about this library, but it's hopefully people will see this and be a little bit excited about it, because I'm quite excited. When I do launch the library, I'll probably have videos about this specifically. And I do have, this app here, this Next.js app, I've got 2 Next.js apps. Actually, one is I'll show you in here. So one is a App Router example. Then I've got the Pages Router example. And this is going to be completely open source. So you'll be able to read through it anyway. So all good. Anyway, the thing that I'm going to add today is we have these dynamic capabilities built in. So I'm going to skip through this a little bit because I want to get to the good stuff and show you how this, how the actual tooling works here. In Claude, but just to kind of show you, if I go into this scenario format here, so what happens is you set up these scenarios like this, and you set up these kind of matches. So in this instance, for this particular one that I'm showing you here, if you do a request to this API under the hood from your API, this would just return this response. Right, that's what that would do. But then you've got loads of different things. You can do things like sequences. So again, just as an example, here's a sequence. So basically, if you made a call here to this API, first time you respond, it would give you this response. So queued, progress 0, status 200. Then you'd get this response on a second call, then this response. And because you're saying repeat last, it will just repeat this one forever. Now, I've got all kinds of stuff like this built in. You can do stateful mocks if you want to check like shopping cart flows, but they're built in such a way that they are completely independent of any other test. All that stuff is done. But the one thing that we don't really have right now, and I've started on it, but it's not fully feature complete, is regular expression matching. So there is actually some functionality for that built in, but I want some helpers here that allow you to do things like where is it? Like this. So you can basically say match a header, match this header, and it needs to contain this word, that kind of thing, right? Now, I've got a bunch of rules here that I want to build. I've already got some capability for this built in, but contains and endsWith, they're not part of the current feature set. So I'm going to just use my tools here to do exactly that. So let's go to Claude. So this is Claude. I did some work previously, just updating some of the docs. So I'm going to say you are now on a new branch. Sorry, you're not actually. Create a new branch. I can't even remember if I pulled the latest down. So let's say, let's start there actually. Let's say pull on main and create a new branch. What it's going to be doing is this. So I'm going to tell it to, I'm just going to pass that to it. You will be implementing the next phase of this piece of work. I'm going to say, because it already has a work in progress document for this that I created previously for the for using my work in progress agent. So you can see here, Regex support implementation. This is a really important kind of development, if you like, something that I've been doing for a while now, where I think a lot of people know that you should start with a plan using tools like Claude. But what I'm now doing is I'm getting it to write the plan down in a markdown file, and we work on it on whatever that feature is in an incremental way. So I like working in small, known good steps where I can merge early and often. That works really well. But Claude can lose context of the stuff it's doing. So what I do is I get it to basically note down what it's doing in a document and to completely keep updating along the way. You can see here, this is stuff that it's done already. And so where are we up to? Here's where we're up to. So it's been doing this along the way. And it's been doing this using, and look, it's got advice to itself. Use a TDD Guardian for this. So I had a bit of a planning session and I went through this with it. So what I'm going to say now, I'm going to start with there. Use the work in progress agent to understand exactly where we are and to prepare for the next part of the plan. Update the the plan files where necessary. And I'm just going to say, just for the purposes of this video, I suppose, explain here what you will be tackling next and how you will go about doing that. So let's just do that. So you should see, the first thing you should see is it will invoke the work in progress guardian. So you'll see a color for this because each agent has its own color. It's defined in the markdown file for the agent. I think work in progress is a green one, if I remember correctly. You should see it in a minute. All right, so it's reading the GitHub issue, so we'll just let it do that. It wrote the GitHub issue itself, I should mention. There we go. This is how professional I am. I'm just going to open a drink, and I'm just going to drink on the call because I'm not a video editor just yet, so you know. Okay, let's see what it does. I do find sometimes it takes a little bit of time to prepare things and so on, but totally worth it because, I'm using Sonnet 4.5, I should mention here. But I think Sonnet 4.5 is extremely powerful. I'm not sure as well whether Sonnet 4.5 was, it's the reason that things are suddenly falling into place and becoming so powerful for me right now, or whether it's a combination of like the new model, the new agents that I've got, and the new, the way I've updated the Claude.MD. I think it's a combination of these things and just getting better over time. But what I will say as well, I should mention, this project that I'm working on, I have written very little of the actual code itself. So while it's working in the background, just explain a little bit about how this is structured. This will be open source soon, that's my plan, probably in the next couple of weeks. The only reason I haven't open sourced it so far is because I'm just a bit worried if people start using it and I'm still tweaking the API a bit. That's to be expected over time anyway. But when you're, just in the kind of early stages, I could be changing it a fair amount. And so I didn't want people using it while I was still kind of working this out. But it is a monorepo setup. Just going to check. Yeah, it's still working. It is a monorepo setup. The reason that I've done it as a monorepo, I think, is a really good decision because it means that the underlying packages here are what creates the what will ultimately be the packages you install through npm. The way it works is I've got this kind of inner core here, which has all the kind of core kind of domain logic, if you want to call it that, for the library itself. Then I have these adapters that sit on top. So I've got a Next.js specific one, And actually, this is two adapters because I've got one for the one for Pages router and one for the app router. I've got an express adapter, and it's built in such a way that it's quite easy now for me to build these new adapters. So I can do a remix one, I could do Hono, I could do even outside of the React world, Solid and Svelte and all of that. I very much do the same, and I plan to over time. But all well and good. Let's just see, just in case I'm being asked for, hang on, let's see what this is doing, because I'll get this running in the background and explain a bit more. So where are we up to? I've analyzed current state. I'm ready to proceed. Here's what I'll be tackling. So phase 1 has been done. Branch, that's cool. Phase 2, string matching functions. So here's where I'll be implementing 4 string matching functions to complement regex. So yes, this equals contains starts with, yes, that's good. So step 1 is the schema extension. Okay, what I actually want, I'm going to make it work in an ATDD style here, which is acceptance test driven development. So what that will do, in fact, let me explain how this works. So as part of the Monorepo setup, I have an apps folder here, and this has these are real apps, right? So this is a Next.js. It's built to demo the functionality here, but they are actually Next.js apps and an Express app, right? And each one of these has its own kind of test built in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Claude to start by writing a failing test for this functionality at that level, at the level of the Next.js application. But I'll only ask it to do it for one for now. Just ultimately, I want the same functionality tested across all of the example applications. But for the purposes of just this screencast, if you like, I'm going to do it in a way where I only ask for one because it's just for the time, right? So adjust the plan slightly. So we start with an ATDD approach. Let's use the Next.js app example to add playwright tests that test for this functionality. In an ATDD style, we expect those tests to fail until the feature is complete. So the way that works is you start off with a test at the kind of application layer itself. That's going to be in a failing state while this work is happening. Then there should be some red-green refactor stuff going on with TDD for the kind of inner core of the logic. And then ultimately that logic gets exposed back up to the application where it should start working. And then that test should start passing as well. Excellent idea, thanks. We'll prove the feature works end-to-end before we build it. Yes, it will. That's what we want. Again, for people who are not familiar with what I'm doing right now and why I go with like the TDD stuff, I should be careful to mention that I'm using the term TDD, test-driven development. When I'm not using AI, I do proper TDD. I should mention that while I'm doing this, that this is not... It generally isn't what I would really recognize, or what genuinely is test-driven development, because test-driven development is always one test at a time, because there's a flow that you go through. Let me just get this going, because let me just I'll come back to that. Where are we? So matches value, blah blah blah. Okay, this is internal stuff, integration. Yeah, this looks okay. Scenario, yeah. One thing I want to make sure it needs to understand not to test schemas directly. I think it knows this now. This kind of, at a glance, it looks good to me, so I'm just going to tell it to proceed. Proceed. Oh, that's weird. Let's do that again. Proceed. I'm going to also tell it though, please, when running the playwright tests, please run in the UI headed mode, but do remember Oh, actually, I don't need to do. Yeah, please run in headed mode. Normally, it runs it in headless mode, which I'm fine with, but I'll get it to do it in headed mode for the purposes of this video, so you can actually kind of see what it's doing as it adds these tests. So, yeah. So what I was saying about TDD, it is always one test at a time. That's what TDD is. So what this is really doing, even though I'm telling it to do TDD and so on, it tends to write multiple tests at once. That's not really true test-driven development, to be clear for people who are not familiar. And that does matter because if you're doing it like as a human, going one test at a time puts you in this rapid feedback loop, which is really powerful. And that's really where the core power of TDD comes from. But the reason you use the term here, and I still, well, it's debatable if I should probably just call it test first for as far as the AI is concerned, or the LLM is concerned. But the reason it's still valuable is that it restricts the scope of what the AI is doing, because it knows that its job is to make those tests pass and nothing more than that. And it also gives it a way to verify that the work it's just done has actually worked and was successful. So that's very powerful. You have to be careful. A lot of tests written in the wild are very poor. In the industry, most people are terrible at it. Sue me. I mean, it's true. Most test suites are not very good, and in the wild that I've seen, the reason being that most people tend to write tests that are very tightly coupled to implementation details. Those tests tend to slow you down. That's not how to do TDD well. You want to have tests that generally test behavior, not internal implementation details. If you read through my TDD agent and so on, I've got these rules all over the place. I'm telling it, and I kind of repeat myself a few times, I tell it to do that. But I still have a habit of checking the tests. I kind of care more about the tests than the internal implementation for the most part, because if the tests are really good and they're testing behavior and not internals, you're locking the behavior in place in such a way that you can still kind of change the internals and the shape of like how it works internally, with very kind of low fear. So, okay, right, so it's running these now. Let me just see. So string matching spec. So it should just load up. Oh, hang on. Looks like there's an error there. Why test? Okay. So there's actually an error running that test. So I'm going to just paste this in here, and I'm just going to give it that feedback. It's probably a TypeScript error or something like that, that it's done, or it's missing an import somewhere. But yeah, TDD is an incredibly powerful technique, and it always has been, and it's very frustrating when people don't understand it. And in this new kind of world where this kind of, it seems to be very effective with the robots, it's almost depressing in a way to see people looking at what seems to be now called spec-driven development or whatever. I don't know. People seem to be referring to it as that. And I've seen people talking about it as if it's some kind of revolutionary new thing. Like, oh, you get these executable specifications. And it's like, well, that's been a thing for over 20 years now. I've been doing it personally since about 2013. Been in the industry about 20 years myself, although I didn't know about these techniques until, as I say, around 2013, which is when I started really getting into this and the TDD thing and really seeing the value of it. Okay, so the red phase is complete. I didn't see it run the tests again, though. So hang on, what's it done here? So playwright test. So maybe it ran them headlessly there. Probably did. I can while it's working there, I can run those again. So I'm just going to try it myself here just to see that. So it was something like string matching or something, wasn't it? So let's just have a look. If I have a filter here, string matching, here we go. So these ones, I think all of these should probably fail at this point in time. That's where we're up to. There you go, failed. Although, to be honest though, it's probably failing because it's changing code under the hood, and because it's changing code under the hood, you get into this thing where it's, because I'm running in the dev server as well, so it's not failing for the right reason. It's because it's changing code and the dev server is updating. But I'm going to trust it that it will have run the tests and they are failing for the right reasons. I could tell it to stop and hang on, actually. Have a look. So, oh, it's probably fine. It's probably no. I think it's fine. It's. I think I know why. It's taking it very literally. That's why. So the import that it was trying to import didn't exist. So therefore, it would fail. So it is failing. It's failing before it even gets to try it. If that makes sense for that reason. But it should be fine. So now let's see what it says here. Yeah. So now let's continue. Now, I think because it's in the plan, it's going to use the TDD agent anyway, I think. So we should see. I think the TDD agent is in red. So let's see if it does. If it doesn't, I'll stop it and tell it to. But I think because it was part of the plan document, I would hope it would just pick that up. Oh, this is a bit annoying. Compacting conversation. So this might take it a moment. This happens every now and then. So I may just pause the video for you and skip you ahead. So you can see here, it took a while there, but it's now continuing. So let's just see. So it's just checking stuff now. First check the schema definition. Okay, so it's doing something wrong straight away. Oh, is it actually? Hang on. Let me remember we don't add tests for schema definitions because they are implementation details. We should be testing schema logic implicitly through our public API. I'm also going to ask it now explicitly, just in case. Remember also to use our TDD Guardian agent as you are working. Let's do that. I have a feeling it was going to remember that anyway, but I'll just make it explicit. I tend to ask it explicitly, to be honest. Coca-Cola is a terrible habit, isn't it? I shouldn't be drinking so much. I was about to violate. Oh, were you? Thank you. Well, okay. So, test schema validation through the public API. That's correct. Use the TDD Guardian agent to verify TDD compliance. Let me start with the red phase. Okay. Yep, by writing. So now what it's doing. So we started with a failing test right at the very top of the application. That's like an acceptance test. And then what we're doing is it will be going into the core in the code. And in there, it'll be going test first in a more kind of unit test style. Yeah, and I'm quite happy with the overall structure of this library because if it all works as hopefully it will, and the acceptance tests kind of prove that it does work, as I say, it's relatively easy for me to create adapters for anything really. So, Remix maybe next, and then as I say, Hono maybe I'll do, Svelte. View even. I mean, I've never written any Vue, but it should be easy enough to do. And what's quite nice is I get normally you do see, by the way, when it's doing this, you normally see the TDD agent in like a different color. So I don't know why I'm not seeing that, but I think it is using it though. Let me start with the red phase. Either it's not, well, it doesn't seem to be explicitly using it right now, but it is doing TDD. So I don't know. Normally you see it and it runs kind of in parallel. But we'll see. And I'll get it to use the work in progress agent afterwards. It's interesting. We don't seem to be seeing it explicitly invoked right now, which is a bit odd. Normally you do see it. Just typical when I want to record a video, isn't it? But we'll carry on. So this is updating the schema. That's kind of an interesting one. I don't know what it's doing there. I'll have to have a look at that. And while it's doing this, let's have a look at can have a look in here and just see. So far it's just updated some schema definitions. Let's see what it's been changing. Don't see anything in there actually. What's different? Unless it's just literally committed that. Oh, it just committed it. That's why. Okay. Ah, TDD Guardian. There you go. Finally. So now, so it's interesting. It's using the TDD Guardian to verify. Now, usually it uses it like proactively, like before it actually has done the work. But what it's going to do, it's going to at least try and find gaps. And again, the going test first gives it a it gives me that higher level of confidence that it has tested all the things that matter. Now, again, with robots, I don't know if you can ever fully trust it. But as you'll have seen in previous videos, there are tools out there like mutation testing to test this. Although I'm not doing mutation testing right now, but part of the reason for that is because I'm testing some things through the playwright level as well. It's all part of the package because I create playwright helpers that are going to be installable and all of this kind of stuff. But as I say, I'll probably do another video or two on the tool itself in the future. Hopefully, within the next week, maybe 2 weeks, I'll have it fully open source and you can just look at it yourself and play about with it and see how useful it is. So what it's doing now, this TDD Guardian, it's kind of working. It can do this in parallel. What is nice is that this has its own context as well. There we go. So it's confirmed that it did the right thing. The TDD Guardian will look for gaps in there as well. It will look for, have we missed anything and all that kind of stuff, and are we testing against behavior and not implementation details? And the reason that that's so important is that I want tests that give us confidence over time. That's what I'm used to when I work outside of, using an LLM. But you'll see here that I'm not even really checking too much. But what we are going to do, this is all being committed on a branch. We're going to, when we get to a point where everything's passing, we're then going to have a look at the PR and we'll go through it. And I also have Claude, a separate instance of Claude reviewing the PR. And sometimes it finds things like I've given that Claude instance. I'll show you how that works actually. So if I go in here, I've got GitHub Claude review. And then basically you tell it, zoom, we tell it, we give it all these rules, and I tell it to check for architecture kind of problems and all of that kind of stuff. And it's quite cool. It sometimes spots them. So it gives me this extra kind of level of confidence as well. And then, of course, I read through the code myself, usually go through it, understand what's there. Sometimes I spot stuff that I don't like and make it change stuff. But it seems to be getting better and better. And another thing to kind of mention here that I found very useful is I get it to update docs along the way. That's my actual, I've got an actual doc site, as you saw at the beginning, but these are the docs for the project. And you can see ADRs, so it's created ADRs for, the project. Again, soon you'll be able to just read through all of this anyway yourself, because I'll put it, I will open source it. But yeah, having these documents really helps. And sometimes it will forget stuff, but you can just say, refer to this ADR, or even better, what I like doing is just saying, like, you violated a rule, find where that rule is in the ADRs and continue. Do you know what I mean? And fix your mistake, What's it doing now? I'm just going to let it continue. Again, I tend to care more about the test than anything else, to be honest. Interesting. If you should never reach here due to Zod validation, then that will be code that will probably be untested. I do have a 100% coverage rule for the core, so that might get caught, and in which case I'll tell it to remove that code altogether, or to find a way of writing a test that actually does reach that. It forces you to write more meaningful code, because if you literally can't get to that piece of code, then there's no point in having that code, right? And if you can get to it, then it must matter enough to write a test, And it feels weird to me to say write a test afterwards, because I always go test first. But Yep, so this looks good so far. He says, I mean, I haven't really I haven't really checked, but it's doing what it should be doing, is what I'm saying. So keep going. And what we probably see as well, actually, let me show you in source tree. Just let me go in here. Just 1 second. Don't like how this looks branchy, actually. It did some branching before, and I don't really use merge, so like that looks a bit nasty to me. I normally rebase everything, but we'll ignore that for now because that can just be deleted anyway because we're back on main. That because I do squash commits as well, you don't see like a merge in like that. So this has got into main, but like it can just be deleted. In fact, let me just do that now. I'm going to tidy up. I don't like merges. Just no, I don't like them. But we'll do. I think what branch are we on? We're on. Oh, hang on. Well, it's on head. I think it's flipping between branches right now. So we're on this phase 2 string matching. So I'll just keep that one alive. There we go. And so now it looks a bit better. Origin. Okay. Anyway, so up here, what's it doing? Yeah, you can see it's been committing all along. And look, red, green, red, green. Like I say, sometimes it writes multiple tests at once. That isn't how you do proper TDD, but it seems to work well for the robots. So I'm not going to complain about it while it works. And it's a bit annoying how I think sometimes when the when it's communicating with an agent, you seem to have to manually click yes quite a lot, to certain things. I don't know if it's because the agent needs its own permissions. Maybe that's why. I assume that's probably what it is. Probably should know that, shouldn't I? But there you go. Okay, but I think I don't know how exciting this is to watch, but you'll see. Maybe I'll skip ahead to where we have the PR ready to take a look at. I don't know. Maybe I'll just stay. I don't know. We'll see. Let's just let it do its thing. So like this process has been running for over 10 minutes now. Maybe this is a longer video than I was originally thinking it would be, but it's all good, isn't it? So we integrate string matching into response selector. Excellent TDD. Yep. So now, okay. So now I think it's got to the point where the acceptance test should hopefully pass. So let's just see. So I think it's probably going to do it. It'd be nice if it does it in the headed mode. If it doesn't, I'll run it again afterwards. What's it doing there? So, oh yeah, okay. It failed because it needs to do a build. That's fine because the playwright helpers need to be imported in, and that's a separate package internally. So probably just needed to do that build. It's quite cool. So now it's running it. It's not running it in headed mode, but let's see if this passes. It looks, did it fail? Oh, it's failed. And it's forgotten to, like it sometimes does this, it runs it in a mode where it can't tell when the test failed. So I'm just going to, that test failed. Remember to run the tests outside of the HTML reports mode. Because when it runs through the HTML report, it doesn't know when the process has failed, and so you have to kind of tell it. But if you tell it, I don't know why it seems to keep forgetting to do that. But let's just see what it'll do now. It should run them again. Okay, what's it doing? Is this a type? Okay, so already I don't like. Well, normally I don't like mutation. But I think with this doing things like pattern matching and so on, there'll be algorithms under the hood, and mutation is probably a more efficient way of doing it. So I tend to turn a blind eye to that when it's like to do things like this. Although I'll have a look after maybe and see if I can tweak that. Okay, so it's compacting again. So I'm going to skip ahead again. Okay, so it's now back to running the acceptance test again. Hopefully No, it's failed again, and it actually ran it. You can't see it, but it's done it again here. Let's just see what's going on. So it has failed, but that's all right. We'll get it to iterate. This is what it's all about. But again, failed again. Do not run HTML reports, as you can't see when the tests fail. You do that. This is all part of the TDD kind of process anyway, like test failing, and we'll see where it gets to. I have faith in you, Claude. I have to say it's done a very good job in this library so far. Like, I've managed to build a ton of functionality that I think, would have taken me a long time. I could have done it. There's nothing here that I couldn't have done myself. But it's done it in a way where, first of all, a lot faster, but also in a way that isn't as mentally draining for me. Do you know what I mean? And I've been able to do it in what little spare time I actually have. Sometimes, like, there's been points where I've been watching like a football game and I'm drinking a beer on the sofa and I just have it running like this in the background, and every now and then it'll prompt me with what it's done, and then I look at it and I'm like, okay, no, let's change this, or actually this is good, let's continue with this. It's using cache builds. So it needs to be restarted. I don't know. Is it that? Let's see what it comes to. It does need to, but I think it did run a build before, right? Because it does need to run a full build when it's updating packages. Still a TSXPEX error, okay. It's removing all that stuff, which is nice, but we do still need to see this working. I wonder if it's not passing the headers to the downstream API. Are those headers being passed into the simulated external API? I'm going to say as well, ultrathink to remember the rules here. They are all documented. It got this a bit wrong on a previous effort, not for this particular piece of work. The thing is, I don't want to go massively into the internals of how this library works, really, because I obviously understand it myself, but I think it's a bit much to explain on a call like this when I'm just trying to show this flow. See the issue now? Okay, let's see what this is doing. Okay, yeah, that would make sense. Yep, that does make sense. That actually makes perfect sense. I'm not liking these lets though, but I might clean those up afterwards. I don't like a mutation, and we've got an any here as well. We'll get that cleaned up. But let's see it working first, and hopefully we get to a state where the tests are now passing. Okay, that actually, in theory, looks like it should work. But that doesn't look like it has yet, has it? Now finding tier premium, but the 3 elements, okay, this means string matching is working, okay. So it's quite interesting watching it iterate in this way. Again, like if you're not using tests, like how are you can see here like how it's using the tests to verify its own work. This is the point that I was making originally, right? And it's iterating on that. So a lot of people who, say, oh, AI just produces a load of crap and stuff, like when I say I think there's a skill to it, this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. There's a few things that I've done here, and I'm insisting it works a certain way. I'm getting it to verify its own work. Some of them are passing now. You can see a couple of them failed, but excellent, 4 tests passing. See, it's started to figure this out now. The next test has the same strict mode issue with email addresses appearing multiple times. Okay, that's to do with Playwright, because you've got the email address appearing multiple times. It's probably just a selector causing the issue. Look, test passing. Are they all passing? It looks like it. Oh, it says 9, so we see 6 there. 6 tests passing now. In some ways, it's almost a sad thing if this is how the industry takes, if this is the direction we go. And it's almost sad that people might not understand the power of what TDD was all about and how it works and stuff for humans, because it's such a brilliant way of working. But, this seems to, there you go, like all 9 Playwright tests passing. Beautiful. ATDD, green phase complete. Noodling, gotta love it. So what we're going to do now, we're going to get it to create a PR for us. And then Claude will itself, that other instance, will review it. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Oh, and I'll also ask it. So I'll tell it now. So I'm going to say, use the work in progress agent to update all plans and create a PR. So, and then what I'll also do, because it didn't do it there, is I'll ask it to look at the refactoring. Like, is there anything worth refactoring? I think because it does the TDD thing quite well and it understands to refactor as it goes. Generally, it doesn't find too much to refactor when I'm using this flow. The funny thing is, if I look at code in that has been written by humans, it often does find stuff, but it still does occasionally. So I'll ask it in a minute. Let's get it to create the PR, and that can be running the check in the background, like the review. And then once it's done that, Clauding. Hey, work in progress Guardian. Now you see it. Okay, so it's now updating. So you see this, the plans here. Oh, yeah, the plans here. It's updating this, and you'll see it will commit all of that. And what it's going to do then is it should update. It should create the PR, and we'll have a look at that. So probably not created it just yet, but let's see. I've got one hanging about here because I had this idea, and I've just kept that open for a bit. I'm kind of still thinking about that one. Yep, off you go. And now the kind of things that I'll be looking for in the PR, we'll look at the tests, of course. I also look for certain kind of architecture violations because we've got kind of clear rules about where things live and all that kind of stuff. Where things should be tested, the correct level to test things, and all of that kind of stuff. So pretty quickly, we should get a PR. So powerful. And the work that it's just done there, I mean, obviously I haven't gone through it and reviewed it yet, but if I were doing it myself, I mean, it's the kind of thing that I would have probably spent, probably the best part of a day on. I don't know, maybe less, maybe I don't know. It's a bit hard to say. It's at least a few hours worth of work, and this is going to do it in a way that, again, it's for me personally, it's not exhausting. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can just carry on chatting to it. I could be doing other things in the background while this is going on. Could be playing a game if I really wanted to. Okay, let's do that. So now what's it doing? PR view. Why is it viewing the PR? It should be creating a PR. Let's see what it's doing. So it's pushed the branch. Hey, it's done it. Here we go. So we've got 9 files changed. Let's have a quick look here. So I'll zoom in a bit so you can see. So we've got implemented these strategies, right? So contains, start with, ends with, equals. We already have support for just general regular expressions in there. For reasons I won't go into, there's a reason that the API is designed in this kind of way. They've got a whole set of rules around having a declarative API. So actually, all of the scenarios, they're written in a serializable format. So you can't pass functions in there, and you can't pass straight regular expressions. So to do a regular expression, you have a kind of rule where you say like regex here, and then you pass in the regex as a string, and then you have what do you call it? Not filters. I've forgotten the term for it, but the extra options are like an extra option on the objects. It'll come to me in a minute. I've forgotten the name of it now. There's a whole reason for that, which I'm not going to go into right now. It's more to do with I like the declarative API that it kind of forces you to do and forces you to work with. I've found that quite useful. So you can see it's going to do a Claude review. It's doing that in the background. While it's doing that in the background, I'll set this off and just use the refactor agent to see whether there are any refactoring opportunities on this branch. So while it's doing that in the background, let's have a quick look at what we're looking at. I did see some things that are, so what we got here. So this is the example page. So this is in the Next.js App Router. Now I will ask it as well, because I want consistency everywhere. So I want the pages router tests and I want the express tests as well. I've just not asked it for that just for the sake of the video because it's time. But I think what I'll do is I will add that. Interesting here. What have we got here? Hang on a minute. String matching page. So that's your page. Okay. Why is it doing this? I hate that. This is only a Next.js sample application. So all this is doing, again, like this isn't like standard production code, right? So all this is doing, just looking at it, it's got a strategy on the page itself, I suppose, to just understand. Yeah. So what it'll be doing under the hood, this simulates an external API, right? So under the hood, what it'll have done, so API keys. So here it says test starts with strategy. So if you see here, the scenarios here, this is the declaration. And in here somewhere, we'll have like an API keys one. Let me find it. There we go. API keys. And you see that's got starts with. So that's kind of how it's doing it under the hood. And I don't really like this code, but it is just for sample. Like, why does it have a result here like this? It's a bit nasty, that, isn't it? I don't really. Thing is, it's only sample application, so I can't help myself because people are going to see it anyway, aren't they? So let it be a bit more reference, and any's are evil as well. So on in the Next.js app where let me just grab both of those. I'm just going to grab that. We're doing this. I'm going to say we don't use any, even in a sample application. This should be reference code. I mean, it's not, it's only reference code for other developers. So let's not fall into that trap. Also, did it find? Oh, there you go. Look. Code is clean, ready to merge, no refactoring needed. And this is why it's found. You see, it's happy with that. Although I'm not happy with this personally here. Maybe I need to I thought these rules were in there, but I'll ask it. I mean, I might update later. This should be a reference code for developers. Let's not fall into that trap. Also, let's remove the use of mutation here. Mutation can be acceptable where it's used for performance purposes, e.g. algorithms. algorithms, but that's not the case here. Let's get it to update that. While it's doing that, did we get any feedback yet? Sometimes it takes a few minutes to run. Okay, so something has failed here. The code review. What's it found? Claude code review. I don't see the. Let's refresh the page. I don't see the comment. It should have a comment on there. I've only seen it once or twice where it doesn't produce a comment, which is odd. It normally does work, so I might have to rerun that. That's very odd. I think I've seen it literally once do that before. This isn't the comment, is it? No, okay, that's a bit odd. So maybe I'll get it to, I don't know why that's happening. In fact, I can just at Claude. Claude, you didn't leave a comment. Comment on this PR. Okay, so that'll trigger it again. This here as well, so what's going on here? So coverage has gone down. I thought that might have happened. So I'm going to tell it off for that. The pipeline, CI pipeline has failed because core coverage went down. Fix this issue. Remember that we never add tests just for this, just to chase coverage. So understand fundamentally what the underlying business behavior was that isn't tested here, and either add the relevant tests based on that behavior, or if it turns out that code isn't required, remove it completely. I'm coming up to another compact here. There we go. So it's fixed the mutation anyway, so that should be in there now. So if I go back, it's doing this review now. So while it's doing that, let's see what it did with that mutation. It's me being a bit awkward, really, because to be honest, it is just a sample app and it's just there to prove that it works, but it has removed that. Like, I wouldn't even go with a switch statement for this, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. That's fine. And then that's cool. So now it's going to plug that gap, and we should get a review. Oh, get it to do it. See again, 100% coverage. In my opinion, like in my experience, you should be aiming for 100% coverage. I see this all the time. People saying that it's not valuable, and it's true. It isn't. You can have 100% coverage and your test can be bad, and you can have 100% coverage and your tests don't cover all the stuff that they should be covering. Doesn't prove that the tests are good. But if you're writing tests that are based on behavior and you're doing test-driven development as a human, you should just get that for free, right? That's just what happens, because the trigger for new implementation code is a failing test. So that just works, right? You just get that. But in this instance, the coverage went down for some reason. So to me, that means either we saw previously, if you remember, that there was a comment that we caught that said that this code can never be matched, right? Well, if that's the case, then delete that code, right? We found dead code there that can't be matched. And if it's not true that it can't be matched, then understand where it can be matched and make sure you have a test against it. Why do I care about this so much? Because I want to live the dream and I want to hit a button, and if the tests go green, I want to feel like that can just go to prod. When this finally gets released and people start using it, hopefully the feedback is positive, and maybe there'll be all kinds of edge cases I haven't thought of that'll probably happen, but it is what it is. But hopefully overall people find it useful, and I'll be producing, the plan will be, if I've got time to do it, I'll be continuously adding features and, changing things where I can and where I need to. And I'm not going to go in and manually test anything. I'm just going to run the tests, and that's that, right? So, okay. compacting conversation. So again, I'll forward you a little bit. Okay, so it's finished doing that. You may see this warning about the Claude.MD, by the way, if you notice that. That isn't the main Claude.MD file. That it's not my public Claude.MD file. It's the Claude.MD in this project, and I probably should cut it down a bit, but I pay for the full, Claude kind of access, and so it's never really been a problem. Tests all passed, but coverage is below. Yep. Uncovered. Let me check what those lines are. So it's doing that now. Let's have a quick look at the feedback as well. Have we got that yet? Oh, here we go. Feedback. Here we go. So, exemplary TDD adherence. Yeah, good. Yeah, good stuff. The commit history can be used as a teaching example for TDD in the repository. I mean, that's always a good thing, right? Like, it's good. Clean architecture, schema first design, implementation, separation of concerns. Good. This is obviously not true, but we know that. We're fixing that now. It seems very happy. No breaking changes, minor observations. What have we got? Documentation comments. Which is value is good change, but the other functions. Okay, so we can look at that. It's not required. Yeah. Test organization. The new tests are added at the end. But you might consider, yeah, maybe very, very minor things. But good stuff. I don't always do the ATDD thing, by the way, but very useful in this monorepo because I have this situation where I can actually create a failing acceptance test because of those example apps. I think what I'm going to do. Oh, so look, it actually did create. I think it did create the first comment after all, but never mind. It's just taken a while. So again, probably. Oh, what's it found? In the second comment, it seems to have found something. Problem. Body matching doesn't use match value strategies. Is that right? I will ask it to double check that. So, we've got, but it's failing probably still because of coverage, right? I think, yeah, coverage. Let's just see what it's doing. See, has it returned? See, like, that was the code we saw before. Oh, if. Oh, I hate that, but it makes the logic clear flow. Oh God, I don't think so. TypeScript can't prove one of the if statements will always execute, or even the Zod ensures it. Okay. Well, sorry if you can hear my dog barking in the background. I think it's time for his walk. In which case, I mean, I think I might end the video here. You can see I've got some slight tweaks to do. You can see that I need to get this coverage up, but it's very close, and it will, because the next stuff that I'm going to do, I'm going to get it to also add the tests in the pages router and the Express application to do the same thing. But essentially, all you're going to miss now is that I get this to clean up. And one thing that I can do and that I do is in this feedback here, I'm going to make it read through this feedback, but you can literally throw the PR at it and tell it to do that. So I'm going to, essentially that's what I'll do next, but it's already a long video. My dog's barking in the background. He clearly needs a walk. So I think I'm going to call it a day there. Oh, we can see here. Hang on. What have we got here? Well, let's quickly see. Successfully fixed the CI coverage failure by restructuring this. Here's what was accomplished. Unreachable defensive code. Did it remove that? Restructured from... But I don't like else ifs, so I'm going to clean that up as well. I am going to get it to clean this up a little bit. But I think overall, though, you can see, and let's just prove this as well. Actually, let's end the video here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the E2E test, not like that. I need to be in the right folder. So it's going to be Next.js App Router example. Quite excited for people to try this library out as well. I should mention it kind of more or less solves, I think, the issue with React server components, because you can test them this way. Let's just see. These were the tests that were added. All the others were passing before, so I'm just going to run these. See, it looks like it's passing. So clearly there's a little bit of refactor work to do. There's some stuff that I need to look at. I need to get it to add some extra stuff, as I say. We'll fix this issue with the coverage. I'm not going to accept these else ifs because I don't like them. But overall, I think you can see exactly how I'm using this tool. I could continue, but maybe it's going to be another 20 minutes or so. And I think I've hopefully demonstrated the point. So yeah, that's that. Cheers.